Knowing everything about ArchiCAD is all well and good, but if you don't have good title blocks to go with it, your drawings aren't going to look professional. What's going on, guys? My name is David Tomic and welcome back to the channel. Today we're trying a little bit of a different angle, a little bit of a different setup for the start of this video, so feel free to let me know what you think. If you're new to this channel, firstly, thank you so much for joining me. On this channel, we talk all things technology and architecture. Today, we're diving into ArchiCAD 25 and exactly how you can set up your title blocks. These title blocks will be available for download in the links below. So if you want to grab a copy of all of the templates that I create, we're going to go through one step by step today, but I'm going to make every single page size available for you guys in the links below. That means everything from an A3 all the way up to an A1 will be available in both landscape and portrait modes. So if you don't want to go and spend all your time creating these, setting them up, they will be down below for you to download. Anyway, enough of my rambling. Let's turn around to these two screens and get into today's video. Okay, as always, we start with the Australian Select template. Use whatever template you have available to you guys. This is just the template available to me and in my region. So we're just going to click New Template and allow ArchiCAD to load. Now, to create a new title block in ArchiCAD 25, or any other ArchiCAD in particular, actually, what we're going to do is come across to our layout book. Our layout book holds all of our drawings and all of our details. We're going to go all the way to the bottom to this masters template. So we're going to open up our masters and we're going to see A1 cover, A1 landscape, and all sorts of different information available on this masters layout. So if we drop down our A1 cover block, we can double click on A1 and you'll see it gives you the generic title block from ArchiCAD 25. It is very, very basic. It's very generic. It has some details that are important, but overall, it's nothing special, nothing flash. What you'll also notice is that the bleed markers around the actual border are incredibly thick, more so for stapling on this side than anything else, but it's up to you guys how you want to set it up. Personally, I set it up for a digital presentation and a digital format, more so than a hard copy physical print, because more often than not, these aren't getting stapled, these aren't getting stuck, and there's a lot of information not being lost on this side of the page anyway, so I set up my bleeds accordingly. So to change these bleeds, we're gonna go up to Document, we're gonna come all the way down to Layout Book, and we are gonna change our master layout settings. So as you can see, we have some pretty significant margins on our A1 metric title block. What I'm going to do is simply reduce all of these to 5mm because that is a traditional A1 printer's bleed setup. If you know what your printer's bleed settings are, I highly recommend that you come in and change this specifically for your printer so you aren't losing any information. You can usually get this bleed information directly from the printer manufacturer, so do have a quick look at what your printer is set up to, but 5 is a pretty safe border overall. So now by clicking OK, we see that purple line move all the way out to our edge itself. So then we have a 5mm bleed that is basically non-printable area, and we have our purple line that dictates what's safe to print in. That's always a very, very useful bit of information to use. What I'm going to do here is simply select this title block in itself, click Ctrl D, and just move it out the way for now. We can reference back to it a little bit later, but overall, we're not really going to be touching this too much. Next, what we're going to do is simply scroll down here in the document element settings and select our polyline. I am simply going to draw one square around this bleedable area. So we're going to select our square. We're going to make sure we have full black. We probably don't need it to be too thick. So 0.13 is okay. I'd prefer it at 0.1, but it's not really a big deal. So what we're going to do is zoom in all the way to our 5mm print bleed and make sure we select that corner as absolutely best as we can, which seems to be an incredibly challenging task, but we'll leave it at that. That's okay. We can drag it out a little bit later. We're going to come back up to our other side, finish off that square and zoom out. So what we see now is an actual physical hard boundary printed on the box. This isn't necessarily required, but I really like to set a physical boundary on the drawing board. So if anything is printed and anything is lost on a different printer, you know where information has been lost. That's just a personal thing. What I then like to do is offset all the edges another 5mm to give us a very safe bleed area. This also gives us a really good place to put some copyright information, which we're going to get to right now. So basically what we do is we come down to the bottom left-hand corner and we activate our text tool. So we start by simply opening up a text box, changing this to about 1.8mm and typing in our company information. Now what we're simply going to do is insert a symbol, and we're going to find the copyright symbol, which is just here. We're going to select that and we're going to select an insert. So copy, close, paste. Next, we're going to continue on by typing in our company information. So we're going to go company, the year it was founded, so let's go 2021, and our website. Then we're all simply just going to click Control E, rotate this 90 degrees, and place our company website in the bottom left-hand corner, directly in line with this bleed marker that we've made. So now we have the basic starting point of our template. This is the corner that is basically not going to change throughout the entire process. I am going to go and create horizontal and vertical templates, so if you do want to download them, you can. There will be a link just down below. I'll make sure it's the first one for you guys. But moving on, what we're simply going to do now is copy this polyline settings, and we're going to draw a box all the way across. I'm going to make this about 40mm high, which is relatively small, but gives you enough room basically to play with all the information that you need. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to simply annotate the area of where things should go. So company logo will go here. I'm just going to make that 5. I'm going to make it bold, stands out, so you know you can place your company logo, your personal logo right there. Next, I like to get this simple line tool, draw an easy line and offset that 5mm either side. So if we offset that 5mm, it gives us a nice clean break between the company logo and the next information about the company. So now we're going to make sure this line is offset perfectly from here. So let's go 90 minus, which means it's perfectly 90mm away from that line. And next, we're simply going to drag that line 120mm across and drag it all the way top to bottom to finish off that box. Now, basically in this section here, we're going to input all of our company information. So these bits aren't automated. You will have to do a little bit of work here to be able to bring it up to scratch for yourself, because I can't guess all your companies, but I can try and give you enough information to start with. So what we're going to do here is we're going to shift our information across a little bit, and we're going to start inputting our company information here. Now, I have left this space quite open and quite blank. You can see it seems a little bit empty, but that's because company addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses tend to go for quite a large amount of space. And if you put your company name in full with the LLC, the PTY, LTD, whatever it is, around the world, it means it basically just extends the length of that name quite significantly. So I always leave plenty of room for information on this side here. Next, we're simply going to drag this line across another 75mm and leave this as a blank space. This element here is basically where your registration information goes, your stamp of approval goes, or anything that basically acknowledges your ability to do your work. So in Australia, it's an Architects Association membership badge. It could be any sort of recognition, awards, things you've won. So it's basically a recognition logo. Now we start moving into the autonomous areas of this title block, where you basically have to set and forget. What we're going to set it up as is, if you go into File, Info, Project Info, this is basically where you're going to adjust the information to automatically adjust it in the title block. So we'll get to that at the end, but for now, all I'm going to do is input that information and then show you guys how to change it. The first thing we're going to do is input our project address, which means we need another area to basically create that box. So I'm going to expand that another 100mm to be able to start inputting our information. Now, simply all I'm going to do is change this to project and delete all that. And then I'm also going to copy and paste that to project address, Just a quick interlude, guys, before we jump any further with this tutorial. If you are lost, getting stuck, or struggling with any of my tutorials, make sure you check out the Discord link below and join the Discord community chat. It is slowly growing into a great community where people are sharing their experiences, talking about these tutorials, and problem solving all sorts of ArchiCAD related questions. So if you're looking for a community where you can simply join 100% for free, the Discord link is below. If you want a copy of any of my ArchiCAD files that I've created for YouTube for these tutorials, there is a Patreon link below that Discord link that basically gives you all access to that Discord chat, which means there's basically one chat in that Discord that is private, but every other chat is 100% free. So if either of those things interest you, make sure you check out the links below. There is also a fantastic checklist available on my website if you're doing sketch design or construction drawings and don't know where to start, don't know what information needs to go on. Even if you're an experienced architect, these checklists are fantastic to make sure your drawings are going out correct. Now what we're going to do is actually introduce some automated text. This is a relatively simple process, but it means that we input automatic text blocks and it updates as it sees fit. So as you update that project information, it'll automatically update anything we do here. To do that, it's very simple. You literally come into Insert Auto Text and you look for what you're actually looking for. So in project details, we're probably going to want our project description right there. So I'm also going to change that to 2 millimeters, not bold, and put another space in. Then we're going to come across to our project address and repeat the same step. So insert auto text, site address 1. So if you double click on that, we have our site address 1 and we are done. So basically what we've just created is our first set of autonomous text. I'm going to drag that text box out all the way so you can basically use that text box to your full ability, to the full length of that without having to worry about it dropping and changing. Now I keep the project and the project address in one specific area because it describes what the project is. Is it a 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, is it commercial, etc. And the project address is all relevant to that box. So now if I show you how to change this, if we go to File, Info, Project Info, we're going to see that project description, let's call it a proposed townhouse. And if we scroll down, we're going to see our site address come up a little bit further down below. Full site address, if we open up this, it'll be in address 1. So we're basically going to fill out this entire box. Let's go 10 Random Street in Australia. If we click OK, and then I press OK once more, you'll see those two automatically populate. Now this is fantastic because it means you don't have to go through every single page to update it when you do a project. I will quickly come back into Info, Project Info, and go delete and change this to update here so you guys are aware of what you need to update. I might simply as well, just to make this basically foolproof for anybody who hasn't watched the video in its entirety, go, now you guys know you have to go to File, Info, Project Info to be able to update that information where you see fit. Now our next box, again, we are going to stretch that out another 100 millimeters to make sure it's identical to this. We are going to copy and paste that 100 millimeters across, and we're going to start putting in our client information. So this box here is all about our client. It's all about their information. So we know who this project is for, who it belongs to, and that we always have relevant information. So we're going to delete all of that and go back to our auto text, minimize these, come to our client contact details. I'm going to input the client's full name here. So that's all I'm really going to update. I'm going to cancel out of that and align our information. If you want to put more information into that area there, specifically about the client, potentially their contact details or anything like that, you can. I don't recommend it. Usually names are enough. You don't really want to be giving away too much private, confidential client information. So simply first name, last name is more than enough information you have to give. Next, we're going to replicate that once more. We're going to make this box a little bit bigger. So we're going to go to 150 millimeters across, leaving us a simple area at the end that we're almost finished. So now this area is basically all about our revisions, all about our information of the actual project and why we have implemented it into the project, what the revision is being revised for. Is it for client information? Is it for construction? Is it for the council? Who is it for? What is it for? So this is a very important section, and hence why I've made it one of the largest. And last but not least, I'm actually going to drag this a little bit back and another 15 mil, and I'm probably going to put some information here of who it's going to. So issued to. There we have our basic information. It is very bold, it is very easy to read, it's very to see, and now we're going to populate the rest with basically autonomous text again. Now ArchiCAD doesn't have this inputted how I specifically like it, so I'm going to update the actual automatic text inside the project info. So if we go File, Info, Project Info, scroll down, we're going to see that we have a list of our actual colleagues that we work with, like all our engineers and planners. Information isn't really too important for me on the document, so I tend to get rid of it. We'll start by taking out the certifier and changing this to revision, and we're basically going to follow our instructions below. Date. Now I'm simply going to put a 1 at the front of everything so that we can differentiate the two in this column here. I'm then going to repeat that same step to Rev 2, Date 2, so that we have two basically rows of the same information. I don't need the civil engineer, I'm simply going to remove them for now, so we have a very simple basically procedure to follow. I'm now going to click OK, come back into my revision text, go Auto Text, go Site Details, go Project Details, and go Rev 1. So now we can go back into this, change that to a 2mm text, and it doesn't need to be bold. That'll simply be A, B, C, 0, 0, whatever you want it to be, and then I'm going to replicate that once below and change that to Rev 2, clicking OK, and following that basically procedure all the way across to the end of this box. Now this is the critical part of this title block, where all the information is stored about your project, about the job, about the page numbers, and basically where you reference. I personally like to leave it in the bottom right hand corner, because as you're flicking through pages, you're looking at that bottom right hand corner flicking over the page traditionally. You might be flicking the other way, but considering that most of the world is right-handed, we flick right to left. You can flip this entire title block around if you see that as different in your personal circumstances. But for me personally, I do like to keep all that information on the right-hand side of the screen. Now to create this, we basically need to break this up into 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, somewhat evenly distributed. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a 20mm, 20mm, and then we're simply going to break those two in half and call it 73 mils in between. So next step is to simply break these two small boxes in half, and to also break the large box at the end in half as well. So we split that in half. Now we have some sort of predominant information that we're talking about, our critical information of the project. Let's drag our main element across here, and it's going to be drawn by is our first element that is important. That doesn't really need to be bold or in extremely large text. So we're simply going to drag that down and make it a little bit smaller so we actually fit inside our text box. I'm actually just going to delete the by bit to make sure it's quite clean, quite minimal, and I'm going to then put checked below as well. So we know these two are very important, who drew it and who checked it. Next, when was this drawing actually issued? So the date of when it was drawn, and finally the scale of the actual drawing itself. Next, we're going to have some critical information like the drawing number or the page number, whatever you wish to actually call this box. I like to call it drawing number instead of page number to not confuse people. And finally, we are going to have our page size as well. Now, page size is critical that we have this information on there, because it isn't to scale unless it is printed to the actual page size. Finally, we're going to have over here in our last two boxes our internal job number, and we're also going to have our stage or revision. Now, all these aren't critical information, they don't need to be bold, but they are internally important. So if anybody's referencing it, they know where to go. Now again, ArchiCAD doesn't have all the details in its automated text to be able to input this information here. So we're gonna have to come back up to our project info and start changing some elements in here. I do scroll down to the contact details information panel because that's really all about the contact information. So we're going to start by simply changing a few bits and pieces. You'll see that the drawn by is already available to us. So we're going to just change that to drawn so it's capital. We know exactly what it is. I'm going to change that to checked. We have our project ID, which will be update required. That is our internal job number, and also our project number, which is going to be our stage or revision. So if I click OK now, I can come into drawn and start updating some autonomous text. So then again, if we come down to contact details, we can see our drawn is here, and I'm going to copy that further down, replace that with the checked by box. Now these are usually just initials, they're not really too important, so you just scroll down and we're going to come to our drawn and checked, checked by DT, drawn by DT. That's not usually how it would be. You'd have a separate signature or a separate bit of information for each checked and drawn candidate. They're not meant to be the same in principle. The date in itself will be the today's date, the current bit of information. So if we just type in date and change that to system, we will get the short system date of today's date when this information and when this drawing was exported. Now I like to keep that as shown, guys, because you can have multiple drawings on one page. They could be multiple scales. So you don't want to have to go update that every single time. It's just a huge pain. So I just leave it as shown and it isn't automatic at all. Next, we're simply just going to have our layout ID here. So if, for example, I scroll up to any of these pages, let's go A001 floor plan, right click that, layout settings, change to A1 cover page and click OK. I will just quickly point out that I did delete that other template that we've created. You'll see it gives you page A101 exactly what page it is. We can introduce page of 115 or whatever we want, but because this hasn't been set up properly in the ArchiCAD Select template, that isn't actually too easy to do in this situation. So I'm just going to keep it as A101 and automatically update that page number. Now coming back to our title page, what I'm actually going to do is just delete that for now. We don't need to reference it. We're not worried about it at all. We're going to start inputting these final two bits of information. Now, because these are critically important, we're going to make sure they are quite large. This for us is the internal job number. So we're going to insert job number, which is project ID. And lastly, stage and revision, which is for us our project number. So if we click OK there, so now if we come back into file info, project info, let's say we change our project ID to, I don't know, DT001 and our project number to sketch01, you'll see that change automatically as we require it. So I'm just going to change that back to update and back to update as well. So now you know you have to update these. This layout ID is automated. You don't have to touch it. That's why it doesn't say update. These are probably a little bit too big for my liking. I'm probably going to scale them back down to about a 4 from a 6. They're probably way too big. And that's basically it, guys. That is the title block completed. That's all the information you need to show on this title block. We have all our company information. We have our recognition company logo. We have all our project and our client details, our revision and our information, and all our internal information as well. You can go massively overboard with a title block. It can have way too much information on it. But for the purposes of this, we don't really need to overcomplicate it. You can have a cover page with a whole bunch of notes like you saw previously below in that title block. It had the example of the builder's notes and the client's notes and all those things. You can have a dedicated page for that because that is not enough information to cover anybody. So we will be probably having a dedicated page somewhere, an information package, and we'll also have a dedicated cover page as well. However, this is going to be the main bit of information shown on all of your title blocks. Anyway, that's all for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new and informative as always. Remember to check out the links down below. There's all sorts of great stuff from checklists to templates to these title blocks that we've created today, as well as a fantastic Discord community that I'd love for you to be a part of. If you wouldn't mind smashing that like button to help this video with the YouTube algorithm, and if you enjoyed the content you saw today, smash that subscribe button along with the notification bell to be notified every Monday of when a new tutorial comes out or a new architecture related informative technological video is launched. This channel is ever changing, ever growing, and forever pushing to make sure that you guys, the community that supports me, gets the content they're looking for. So if you want to see anything, drop it in the Discord chat, drop it in the comments below, and I will try to make it happen for you. But anyway, that is all from me today, guys. I will see you next Monday.